summarize Canto 1 and Canto. We are going to summarize Canto 1 and Canto 2. So the first and second cantos of Bhagavatam are considered the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, and they form kind of prelude to the rest of the Bhagavatam by introducing reader to some important and philosophical concepts like absolute truth, Param Satya, and the prominent character. They also establish the method to achieve this absolute truth, which is a bhakti, and proves that bhakti is the topmost method to achieve Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. And it also describes the history of Bhagavatam and how Kali was chastised by Parikshit Maharaj. Then the super exchanges, the super duper exchanges between devotees and Lord Sri Krishna, like Uttara, Pandavas, Kunti Maharani, Pitamaha, Bhishma, as Krishna's Bhaktavatsala reciprocation. And in the second canto, Sukadeva Goswami described the supremacy again of Krishna Bhakti. He talks about Krishna Bhakti, he talks about demigod worship, Ashtanga Yoga, but he finally says that Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu, that you remember all the time Krishna and worships Lord Sri Krishna. And of course, little technical topic in the second canto, like Sarga, creation, and some aspect of Visarga, secondary creation by Lord Brahma being mentioned in the second canto. And also towards the end of the second canto, Sukadeva Goswami would also talk about or Lord Krishna in turn. It's a discussion. Lord Krishna would speak about the Chaturshloki, the four seeded verses of Bhagavatam. And finally, Lord Krishna would actually, Sukadeva Goswami would give about the 10 topics of Bhagavatam. That is the last chapter of second canto, 10th chapter. So this is the overall Canto 1 and Canto 2 quick summary that we are going to go quickly. So Bhagavatam's the first three texts forms again a kind of prelude to the book. The first text which define the absolute truth, and the second shlok describes the Bhagavatam, what are the characteristics of Bhagavatam, why Bhagavatam is so unique, so special. And the third shloka invites the humanity to taste the Bhagavatam sweetness. And so here, to start with, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purports that typically we know what is a God, but in Bhagavatam it talks about the absolute truth. But before that, let me actually see that how Bhagavatam starts where Bhagavad Gita actually ends. So where does Bhagavad Gita ends? Practically the instruction from Lord Sri Krishna. What is the last practical instruction from Lord Sri Krishna?
Sarvadharman Parityaj.
Sarvadharman Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Vaja Aham Tvam Sarvapapebhyo Mokshayasi Masucha, 18.66. So now Bhagavatam begins from there. Now who is that person we have to surrender? And that person is nothing but Vasudeva, that is nothing but the Satyam Param Dhimai. That Satyam, absolute truth, is what Lord Sri Krishna. So Bhagavatam starts where Bhagavad Gita ends. So there is a difference between God and absolute truth. So Srimad Bhagavatam hits or the targets towards the absolute truth, and the conception of the God is something like that, which is controller. So God can be anyone. Anybody can be a controller, but whereas the concept of the absolute truth, which is a samam bonum, that is the word that was coined by Srila Prabhupada, samam bonum, from which everything emanates, and that samam bonum is being targeted, is being described by Srimad Bhagavatam in the first verse, and that is where the first verse goes, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadi Asyayatah. So there are, in that particular 1.1.1, there are 7 important characteristics of absolute truth which are mentioned. The first is Janmadi Asyayatah. So that's a difference between the God. God can be controller, but absolute truth is something from which everything emanates. So it's a primary cause of all creation, maintenance, and destruction. That is what we said. Aham sarvasya prabho maya adhyakshana prakriti. So Krishna says he is the cause of all creation, and then he is conscious of all the manifestation directly or indirectly, and he's fully independent. Swarat. Krishna does not need anything from anybody. When he performs pastimes, it is not that he's in need of something and then that need will be fulfilled by performing lila. No, Krishna by characteristics, by absolute truth, by nature is fully independent, and that is why even in the midst of the Ras Lila, Krishna just leaves Gopi because he's not dependent on anyone. And this absolute truth knowledge, it is Tene Brahma Hrudaye Adi Kavai. So this was first imparted unto the heart of Brahma. And not only that, Adi Kavai Muhyanti Yat Suraha. So even the great sages and the demigods are placed in illusion because they don't, we cannot understand this absolute truth by our own knowledge or intelligence. What to talk about us? Even demigods are bewildered, and we know 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Indra's pastime, Brahmadev's pastime. So they all are actually put into illusion. So what about us? We are a tiny, insignificant person. And these material universes appear factual. So though these material universes are a reflection of the spiritual world, but because of Krishna's energy, the absolute truth's energy, it appears as a factual. And the last but not least, that Param Satya is eternally exists in the transcendental abode. And to that Param Satya, Vyasadeva is saying, Satyam Param Dhimai. I meditate to that absolute truth, which is as all the 7 characteristics of that is mentioned in this. So the first shloka actually defines the absolute truth, and that is the target, that is the goal of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is not targeting or hinting or heading towards any god. It is hinting, targeting, taking all of us to the absolute truth, which is a Param Satya. So having been said about this Param Satya, absolute truth, in the second and third slok, Vyasadeva starts about what is this Srimad Bhagavatam. So Dharma Projita Kaitavya. So this Srimad Bhagavatam, it completely rejects all the religions, Sarva Dharman Parityaja, all the religions which are motivated by material things. So that means Srimad Bhagavatam does not promote anything which is material, completely rejects everything. And then if it doesn't propose or advise or promote anything material, then what does it promote? It propounds the highest truth, Param Satya. And who can understand this Srimad Bhagavatam? Nirmascha. It can be understood only by Nirmasarana Satam, those who are non-envious, those who are devotee of Lord Sri Krishna. Only those kind of people can understand, those devotees can understand Srimad Bhagavatam. Not only that, it can actually distinguishes between what is the highest reality from illusion. So because if you see any other philosophy or any other things, there may not be even an understanding of a highest truth, Param Satya. So there is a complete misunderstanding. However, Srimad Bhagavatam distinguishes between the Param Satya and what is the reality and what is the illusion. Not only that, why we should hear Bhagavatam? Because it uproots the 3 tapon trayan mulanam, uproots the threefold miseries. So the threefold miseries that we know. What are the threefold miseries?
Janma mrityu jara vyadhi.
Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukha doshano darshanam. Okay.
Adi Daivik, Adi Bhautika, and Adhyatmik.
Very good. Who was that? Mataji, your name?
Nikita.
Very good, very good. So these 3 miseries are being uprooted by Srimad Bhagavatam. So it means that if we are going through all miseries, or at least we are realizing that we are getting suffered by 3 miseries, then what is the shelter for all of us?
Srimad Bhagavatam.
Srimad Bhagavatam, because that is what it talks about. Tapo Trayan Mulanam. It removes, it uproots the threefold miseries. And who has compiled this Srimad Bhagavatam? Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krute. So Mahamuni, like Vasudeva, who is literary incarnation of Lord Sri Krishna, who has compiled this Srimad Bhagavatam. So we can understand that how important Srimad Bhagavatam is. That for any Param Sampradaya, there is one primary book. So similarly, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in our Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, our primary book is Srimad Bhagavatam. You see all acharyas and how they actually recommends, and they personally actually show by their own example by Srimad Bhagavatam. And even Nectar of Devotion, it is mentioned that 64 angas of devotional service, and out of that 64, 5 angas important, and out of that 5 important angas, one of them is Bhagavata. So Bhagavat Adhyayan, so reading Srimad Bhagavatam. And that is why, if you see our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, he so nicely structured the life or the schedule of temple such way that all the 5 important angas of Nectar of Devotion which are mentioned are actually get completed by following the temple schedule. So this is how this Srimad Bhagavatam is all about. Now in the next shloka, why we should it's inviting people to taste the nectar that is actually coming from the lips of Sukadeva Goswami. So it is said that Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Phalam. So this Srimad Bhagavatam is the matured Galitam Phalam. It is a matured fruit of desire tree, Kalpataru Galitam Phalam. And not only that, is a mature fruit. Suppose if you are any guava or something on tree, and if it is touched by the beak of parrot, it actually enhances taste. So similarly, the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is not only the mature fruit, but it is actually emanating from the lips of Sukadeva Goswami. And this Bhagavatam is Pibatam Bhagavatam Rasam Alayam. Muhura Rasiko Bhuvi Bhavuka. So this Bhagavatam, nectarian juice, is relishable even for liberated souls like Sukadeva Goswami. It is not that this Srimad Bhagavatam is only for neophyte devotees like all of us, but no, even Srimad Bhagavatam gives nectarian, it's being relished by devotees like Sukadeva Goswami. So these 3 shlokas actually defines the objective, glories, characteristics of absolute truth, Bhagavatam, and what is the result of Bhagavatam that one start reciting, hearing, reading, and applying those principles in our life. So from there, we'll ask question. So from the third, then you know that the context of Srimad Bhagavatam for all of us here is that the sages of Naimisharanya, the sages are assembled at Naimisharanya, and they are doing the yajnas or sacrifice, and then the Bhagavatam is being recited there. And then there are many things are described about the characteristics of the speaker, which is Sutta Goswami, and the characteristics of the audience, which are the sages headed by Saunaka Rishi. And then in that audience, the sages, the Saunaka Rishi asks 6 questions to Sutta Goswami. And what are those 6 questions? That forms the questions and answers from the first 3 chapters of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So what are the 6 questions that are being asked by sages of Naimisharanya to Sutta Goswami?
What is the ultimate good in general for the humanity?
What is ultimate good? Very good.
And what is the best? And second question is, what is the essence of all Vedic scriptures? Keeping the mentality of essence of all Vedic scriptures, keeping the mentality of Kali Yuga people.
Very good.
Yeah. And third was, why did Krishna taken birth in the womb of Devaki as the son of Lord Vasudeva?
Very good.
Vasudeva.
Is it Rajesh Prabhu?
It is Shanmukh.
Oh, Shanmukh Prabhu. Oh, wonderful. As if you have gone through all this very recently. So nice. And what are the 4 and 5 and 6?
Leela Avatar, Purusha Avataras, Leela Avataras.
4 and 5. 4
Yeah.
is Purusha Avatara, 5 Lila
And then
Avatara. And the sixth question is important. And
after
which actually,
Krishna leaves to his dham, whose shelter did these religious scriptures to?
Swagayate, after living to his own personal abode, where did people in Kaliga should take reside or take shelter of? So that is where this very good. So these 6 questions by sages are, as Shanmukh Prabhu said, that what is the highest good? And that highest good is mentioned in, and of course now we are not going in detail because it's the summary of that. The highest good is mentioned as savai pumsa paro dharma yathor bhakti adhoksaje ahitukiha pratihata yayatma suprasiddhati. So that is where the 1.2.6, that what is the highest good? To develop a love of Godhead through bhakti. And as you said, that what is the essence of all scripture, considering the people in Kali Yuga, Swalpa Aisha, Manda, Sumanda, Matabhagya. So how can they go through all these scriptures when we don't have even time? We don't have life for that. Forget about that. We don't have even scriptures available. So once I was in Vrindavan, I think, and I was just happened to speak to some devotee there. He said that today we have around 30 to 40% of Vedas available. So if even if somebody is inquisitive to go through that, we may not have the 100% of scripture available. So that the source is still not there. We don't have time. We are very busy in Bangalore because of traffic, and top of that, Facebook and Insta and WhatsApp keeps us busy. So where is the time for all of us to study? So then just give us a essence crash course, and that is crash course is nothing but the devotional service. And what is the purpose of Krishna's appearance? We know that Paritranaya Sadhunam, and here the same, to reclaim the people in the mode of goodness. So, so it means that if we are in, and we are typically in, the people in this Kali Yuga are mostly either affected or influenced by Tamoguna, or mostly Rajaguna, Tamoguna. So that means we have to elevate ourselves from the Rajaguna, Tamoguna to Rajaguna to the Sattva and then transcendate that. Just like Arjuna asked in Bhagavad Gita 14th chapter, how can I transcendate the 3 modes of materiality? Trai Lingan. So he says, how can I transcendate the 3 modes of material nature? So then Krishna, to reclaim all these people from the mode of goodness. Purusha avatars, which will be explained in the this 1.2.30 and different shlokas, which are nothing but what are the 3 different Purusha avatars that we typically hear?
Mahavishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, and Kshirodaksha Vishnu.
Mahavishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, and Kshirodaksha. And what is Karnadaksha Vishnu?
Same, Mahavishnu is the Karnadaksha Vishnu.
Very good. And then Lila Avatara 1.3, he would talk about around 22 to 23 Lila Avataras, and then he says that Krishna's to Swayam Bhagavan. And then Parikshita Sutta Goswami would actually conclude that the source of everything is the Lord Sri Krishna. And the 6th last question, that where will people or religion take shelter after Krishna had led to his abode? And that is nothing but Srimad Bhagavatam. And that is why Srimad Bhagavatam is such an important literature for all of us, that we must read Srimad Bhagavatam on regular basis. And there are many devotees that we have seen, and including our Sri Gaur Prabhu, Bandhu Madhav Prabhu, Sudhir Gopal Prabhu, that we have seen that regularly read Srimad Bhagavatam. Such important literature for all of us by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Earlier days, to get the scripture was difficult. Today we have just on tip of our fingertips that we have. So you just type 1.1.1 and you get the shloka, translation, purport, everything. So these are the 6 questions asked by sages of Naimisharanya and being answered by Sutta Goswami in chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. So what are the 3 different aspects of the 6 questions asked by the sages? It talks about bhakti, it talks about Bhagavan and it talks about Bhagavatam. So Bhakti that we know 1.2.6, Savai Pumsa Paro Dharmo, then how the different stages of Adav Shraddha Sadhu Sangha Bhajana Kriya Anartha Nivrutti and all the way to Bhava and Prema. So all those stages are mentioned in this Bhakti. Bhagavan, that we know that Ete Cham Shakala Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Soyam Indradi Vakulam Lokam Mrudayanti Yuge Yuge. To remove this burden of that I come yuga after yuga, and Krishna is the source of all this kala and amsha. And the next important is Bhagavatam. So what is the Bhagavatam? Krishna Sodham Upagate Dharma Jnana Adi Saha. Krishna went along with his Dharma and Jnana to his abode. Then where do we take the shelter of that? And that is what is actually substitute for Bhagavan is Bhagavatam. This Bhagavad Purana is as brilliant as a sun, and it has just arisen just after the departure of Lord Sri Krishna, who has went or left to his abode accompanied by Dharma and Jnana. So these three things which are mentioned by those, if you see seva, devotional service, if somebody has to engage in a devotional service, that means there should be bhakta. The bhakta should have bhakti, and the bhakti should be towards Bhagavan. And how to do bhakti is mentioned in Bhagavatam. So all those three aspects are very important from the life of devotee. Reciprocation of devotees and Lord Sri Krishna, between devotee and Lord Sri Krishna. Then, so going forward, the sages of Naimisharanya, okay, now you talked about Bhagavatam. Obvious question that, can you tell me about history of Bhagavatam? How did this Bhagavatam appear? Who spoke this Bhagavatam? And they also heard about Parikshit Maharaj. So then you please explain us, how did he take birth? What are the activities of Parikshit Maharaj? And how did Sukadeva Goswami meet Parikshit Maharaj? And the fourth question is that, why did Parikshit Maharaj give up everything? So that means they knew that there was a discussion between Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj gave up everything. So that forms next for chapter number 4, chapter number 5, chapter number 6. And the chapter number 4 and 5 talks about Vyasadeva's incompleteness. So it talks about that how Vyasadeva, being the literal incarnation, he divided the Vedas into the 4 Vedas. He did the complete compilation of different Vedic literature, but at the end, Vyasadeva felt something is incomplete. For us, it's not that we are comparing Vyasadeva's incompleteness to us, but we also feel most of the times, and especially when we cross 30-35 years of our age, then what is the purpose of life? When we talk to the people in general, when we go for preaching or anything, people when they are at the age of 18, 20, 25, absolutely no problem for them. Sky is the limit. Everything is happy. Nothing they achieve it. Then once they get married and then settles in their professional life, and that thing starts unfolding in the material life, and then they feel something is missing here. So not in that sense, but something like that. Vasudev felt that he did everything, but he still felt that something is missing there. And then he started reflecting what could be the root cause. RCA, yesterday session, day before yesterday, Friday evening, some Mata said, what is the root cause of and very nicely, Her Grace Sukava Mataji said that the false ego. So similarly, Vasudev started reflecting what is the root cause of that. And he also got a hint, he got a possible hint that probably he thought that he would not have given much importance to the devotional service. And appears Narad Muni on the scene. So that's a 4, 5, 6. And so it's so much of learning for all of us here that we know who is Vasudev. Vasudev is a literary incarnation, who is the compiler of all this Vedic literature. And despite all those things, still Vyasadeva felt incompleteness in his life. And what to talk about all of us? We are nowhere close to Vasudev. We don't even know what is the Vedic literature. We don't even know what does it mean by bhakti, and what does it mean by many other things. And we are not even engaged full of our life to Krishna service or even compiling the Vedic literature. Then we can understand that how much more incompleteness that one may feel if we are not going towards now the answer that would come from Narad Muni. So Narad Muni, Narad Muni laughed, smiled, and he immediately, because Narad Muni is a Trikaladnya, he knows past, present, future, and Sarvadnya, he knows everything by the mercy of Lord Sri Krishna. He understood what's happening there, and so he appeared, and then he asked, "Are you missing something?" And Vasudev said, "Yes, right. How did you know that I am missing something in a life?" And then Narad Muni, then he says that you are the perfect person, and he glorifies Narad Muni. And then Narad Muni says that, oh, you have done these things, still you don't know that you are still missing something. And then he finds two imperfection, or the two defects that he found in Vasudev's compilation. And what are the two defects that he said? The first thing he said that you did not glorify sufficiently Lord's guna, lila, pastimes, but instead of that, you have given more emphasis on the four purusharthas. What are the four purusharthas?
Dharmartha, kama, moksha.
Very good. So Narad Muni says that you have done many things, but actually you have not emphasized sufficiently glories of Lord Sri Krishna. So this is the quote that I heard many times, and we say that operation successful but patient dead. So that is the situation of Vasudev here, that he did everything, but he did not glorify Lord Sri Krishna. But operation is successful of compiling, but not having the ingredients of Lord Sri Krishna, and the result that he was feeling despondency, he was feeling incompleteness. And the instruction given by Narad Muni to Vasudev that now expand the supremacy of the Lord as the primeval cause. Now you go and glorify that. And in that maturity, Vasudev starts compiling Srimad Bhagavatam. So many things for all of us as a practitioner, neophyte devotees, for all of us, that we can also feel incompleteness in our life. And now we know that we should be knowing that why we have incompleteness, because we don't have Krishna in our life. And how do we actually understand that? And Vasudev has shown that. Person like Vasudev shown by his own example that one must approach authority. One must take guidance, spiritual authority or guidance, or take to the bona fide spiritual authority, spiritual master in our life, who can actually give us guidance and direction. So that is where Vasudev, after taking shelter of Narad Muni, and Narad Muni, the Devarsi Narad Muni, actually gave him what was that. So same thing will happen when a sincere devotee, he takes a shelter of spiritual master, and he understands, right? Bhagavad Gita 4.34. What is Bhagavad Gita 4.34? How does one approach a spiritual master? Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnanina tattva darshina. So one can approach a spiritual master or a person who has seen that truth with the humility, and ask the question, prashna, and serve him. And that is where Vasudev actually did that. And of course, going forward, Vasudev would say, okay, now you show me example. We show the case study, right? We want a case study. Show me a case study that somebody followed this bhakti and he has perfected his life. And Narad Muni gives the example of
himself.
Fantastic. That how he, in the previous day of Brahma, he was the maid servant, and then he got opportunity to associate, hear katha from the Bhakti Vedantis and serve them. And one day, by by associating with their permission, he actually took the remnants of their food. And then of course then many things Narad Muni mentions in that story, that how his mother actually left by the bite of snake, and then he started wandering, and then he went towards different regions, forest, then this side, that side, and finally he actually meditated on Lord, and Lord appears for a momentarily and then immediately disappears, and he couldn't even, then second time he couldn't get the vision of Lord. And Lord says that do not worry, that now since you have not completely purified, then you would actually get once you are purified. And then in the next life he appears as a Narada Muni. So here Narad Muni giving the case study example that, okay, here is the example that when he heard Krishna Katha from the Bhakti Vedantis, he took the instructions, teachings from them, and he engaged in meditating on the transcendence given by the Bhakti Vedantis. And that is how Narad Muni got the darshan or the vision of Lord Sri Krishna. So many important aspects between Vasudeva and Narad Muni, 4, 5, 6. Then Sutta Goswami got excited because next he should have explained about the fourth. What are the fourth question that they asked now after the six questions? What were the 4 questions they asked? History of Srimad Bhagavatam.
How did Parikshit
About the
Maharaj?
listener and the hearer.
Birth and activities of Parikshit Maharaj. Now, Sutta Goswami should have ideally gone to the Parikshit Maharaj and all that, but not. Sutta Goswami got excited about Krishna Katha, and then actually he had some detour or diversion, and he actually went to some other point where he mentioned about Ashwatthama killing the 5 sons of Draupadi. And that is the topic where Krishna's introduction to Bhagavatam. And we know that how after Mahabharata war, Ashwatthama actually killed the 5 sons of Draupadi who were actually sleeping. And then there is wonderful discussions and different learnings for all of us, that how one can actually punishment, how to give a punishment to a person who is a perpetrator. And there are different understandings comes from Arjun, different understanding comes from Draupadi and Arjun, and finally what Arjun actually does is very, very exemplary, that how one can give a punishment to that. So but before that, here when Ashwatthama launches the Brahmastra, and when he launches Brahmastra, and Arjun along with his chariot driver is a supreme personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita, how did Lord Krishna get introduced in Bhagavad Gita? In the first chapter,
as a charioteer.
Charioteer. The same thing happened here in Bhagavatam also. So far, as Krishna, I mean, he talks about absolute truth, but in terms of Leela, Krishna was not introduced until Arjuna and Krishna started chasing Ashwatthama. And at that time, Krishna is being introduced as a chariot driver. And same thing in Bhagavad Gita. So we can see here Krishna's Bhakta Vatsala. Krishna is ready to do anything. Who in the world would like to introduce as the servant of someone? But here is our Supreme Lord who wants to glorify his devotees and take a secondary position for them. And that is where when Ashwatthama launched the Brahmastra and Arjuna got confused, and then he had a first set of prayers in Srimad Bhagavatam, and that is what he says, Krishna Krishna Mahabaho. He says that, oh Krishna, now you actually help me who is actually in difficulties. So that is where Sutta Goswami goes through that Ashwatthama's pastimes, Arjun, and the first prayers, and then after being punished by Arjun by cutting and shaving off his hair, as because for Kshatriya insult is as good as a death. So which solves both the purpose. He got insulted as good as he got a death, but at the same time Draupadi did not want that the miseries that she was going through when her 5 sons were actually killed. So she also does not want that Krupi should go through the same when if her son Ashwatthama is being killed. So you can understand that how Draupadi's heart is so compassionate, so mild, so gentle, that she does not want para dukkha dukhi. By seeing others, that she would actually feel difficulties, and that's why she said she does not want to kill Ashwatthama. Second time again, Ashwatthama, though he got a punishment, second time he sends again Brahmastra to kill Parikshit Maharaj, who is in the womb of Uttara. And then that is where Lord saved Parikshit Maharaj. 1 minute. Hare Krishna, sorry. There was a call. So then Uttara in the while having Parikshit Maharaj in her home, and actually she runs to Lord Sri Krishna for a protection. And that is what we can see, that the devotees, it is so wonderful from chapter 7, chapter 8, chapter 9, chapter 10, 11, 12 of the first cantos, are such a wonderful reciprocation between Lord and Lord is being explained or described as the Bhakta Vatsala. And then Parikshit Maharaj being saved by Lord personally, and that is why his name was mentioned, given as a Pariksha Karne. That means he would actually, as soon as he came out of his mother's womb, he was actually examined. You are the same person who protected me. You are the same person who protected me. So that's why he was named as Parikshit. And then, as Lord is ready to leave to Dwarka from Hastinapur, and Kunti Maharani comes and starts offering, "Oh my Lord, Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Nama." So that is a beautiful phrase by Kunti Maharani, saying that how many times you have protected us, how many times, starting from the Lakshagraha, from the dice, from the poison, from the battlefield, even now Parikshit Maharaj is being saved. How many times you have saved? So Kunti Maharani is recollecting all those things, and she is glorifying Krishna. Nama Pankaja Nabhaya Nama, Nama Pankaja Malini, Nama Pankaja Netraya Namaste, Pankaja Angre Nama. So that is the chapter number 8. Prabhupada has written a special book on that, the teachings of Queen Kunti, the prayers of Queen Kunti. So after that comes Bhishma Dev, that when the whole battlefield of Kurukshetra happened, and Yudhishthira Maharaj was feeling misery, that he was saying that he was the cause of so many millions of people were killed, and many sages, including Lord Sri Krishna, actually tried to pacify him, but nobody could actually pacify him. And finally, Yudhishthira Maharaj goes to Pitama Bhishma. Now here we can understand how Lord Krishna is so merciful to his devotees. He is ready to give all credit to his devotees, and devotees are also equally reciprocating that they want to give all credit to Krishna. Now, is that something that Krishna cannot pacify Yudhishthira Maharaj? No, that is not something Krishna cannot do. Otherwise, he cannot be God. It's something that it is possible for him, but he wants to give credit to Pitamaha Bhishma. And then Pitama, when Yudhishthira Maharaj goes to Pitama Bhishma, and then Pitama Bhishma tells to Yudhishthira Maharaj, accept that all had happened as a Krishna's arrangement, understanding that we could not know the reason behind the Lord's plan. If we don't know the plan behind, because they have gone so many difficulties, Pandavas, and that is where he said that so many kastas. so many difficulties that you have gone through that, but we cannot estimate, we cannot understand the cause of that. And Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that definitely when there are difficulties in the life of devotees or the pure associates of Lord's devotees, it can be definitely because of Lord's specific plan. However, when there are difficulties in our life, definitely it's because of our previous karma. But when it comes to the devotees, it's definitely it's Lord's special plan for them. And that is where Pitama Bhishma, that if we cannot ascertain the reason behind the law, behind the suffering, definitely we should know that it is a Lord's plan. And we should then, he instructed Yudhishthir Maharaj that he should simply perform his duty as a royal duty and protect his citizen. So Prabhupada writes very wonderful purport there. Devotee remains always confident of Krishna's affection, nourishment, and guardianship. So this whole middle chapter of this first canto actually talks about that, how devotees always remains confident. That's that faith. That's nichaya that Krishna is going to protect us. And then finally, Pitama Bhishma, as a time come for his leaving this earthly planet, he's lying on this bed of arrows, and then he meditates on the Lord's Parthasarthi form, because that is what. And again, Prabhupada writes such a wonderful purpose that how Lord is ready to give up his own promise at the cost of his devotees' promise, and not only that, at the cost of his devotees' protection. So what was the cost of his devotees' promise? Because Pitama Bhishma has taken a promise that I will make my Lord to fight, because that was, see, sometimes it is not that the meditation can happen only by offering flowers, because there is a different rasas. And one of the rasa is a Veera or Shaurya rasa, where devotees can actually reciprocate with Lord by fighting with him. And that is where Pitama Bhishma is having that kind of rasa, where he's actually fighting rasa, meditating on that Parthasarthi, and Krishna is ready to sacrifice or give up his own promise at the cost of his devotees' promise. And that is where he broke his promise and he took his that. And the second reason, to protect his devotees, Arjun. And devotees, or Acharya says that being Arjun's charioteer, Krishna is giving more companion to Arjun, but more than Arjun, he's actually giving darshan to Pitama Bhishma, because when he was actually charioteer, he was actually facing his back to Arjun. But when Pitama Bhishma is fighting, he's having face-to-face darshan, and that is where finally Pitama Bhishma meditating on that form of Parthasarthi, and actually he leaves his body. So Lord's grace is the most intimate shelter for the devotee, is the conclusion from all these Ashwatthama killing Draupadi's sons, and then with Arjun taking shelter, Uttara crying out for help, Kunti Maharani's prayer, and how Pitama Bhishma meditating on the Parthasarthi. All this excitement actually goes in the middle of the chapters of the Canto 1. Now, Lord again ready to depart towards Dwarka, and then when Krishna took permission to leave, all the devotees in Hastinapur, they fainted in a fear of separation from Krishna. Their hearts were melting in affection. And so what does it mean? So it shows that how Bhagavatam help us remember that personality whom we have forgotten. And who we have forgotten? The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, Bahir Mukhe. That is where we have actually turned our face. Jiva Goswami says that, why are we actually in this material world in the first place? Because we turned our face away from Krishna. So we have forgotten that, and that is where Srimad Bhagavatam help us. Srimad Bhagavatam direct us to remember that personality whom we have forgotten. It awakens our longing as well as teaches one the method to establish our relationship with Lord Sri Krishna. And when love for Krishna blossoms in our heart, a moment of apart appears to be an eternity. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that millions, the moment of separation appears to be like a million. So this is what happens when that love of Krishna, love for Krishna, Krishna prema get manifested, get blossom in our heart, and the separation is something that devotees can tolerate. But one thing they cannot tolerate is the separation from Lord Sri Krishna. And now Krishna leaving leaving Hastinapur and now going to Dwarka, and then each citizen actually now welcoming Lord by gift and glorifying Him. They contributed to the joyous reception according to his or her own capacity. And Krishna very sweetly reciprocated with each citizen, whether it's a friend or relatives. All priests glorified Krishna there, and they glorified Krishna as the opportunity, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the opportunity, because they got the opportunity to see Him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in a direct, and that was the festival. That's the greatest of festival for them to see Krishna in a person. Whether one is qualified or unqualified, good or bad, if one approaches Krishna and sincerely offers Him whatever we have or is capable of, Krishna will definitely reciprocate with auspicious benediction, and the most beneficial of which will be deepening our desire to serve Lord Sri Krishna. So here we see that the devotees at Hastinapur, they are actually they are fainting because of the fear of separation, and at the other side the devotees at Dwarka, they are happy to welcome and the joyous welcome for Krishna by glorifying and giving a gift, and equally Lord Krishna reciprocating with them. And then in between one chapter, Sutta Goswami talks about Parikshit Maharaj's appearance, and he says that Tasman namna Vishnurat iti loke bhavishyati na sandeho mahabhagavato mahan. Maharaj Parikshit was favored by all the good signs of the constellation. Yudhishthir Maharaj arranged for the purificatory process and distributed charity for all the Brahmanas. And this spotless child has been protected by the Lord to oblige your dynasty. That is where the Brahmanas who actually came, they actually predicted what could be this person, who will be that. And that is where it is said that this is the shloka from that Brahmana saying that no doubt this child will become the first class devotee, Mahabhagavata Mahan, and will be qualified with all the good qualities. And they also predicted that he will be the father of Raja Rishis, and he will be the chastiser of these people who would do the bad things or inauspicious things. And this child will be called as a Parikshit, as we know that as examiner. So that is where in one of the chapters Sutta Goswami talks about Parikshit Maharaj's appearance. Now next is to talk about Parikshit Maharaj's activities. So then Sutta Goswami talks about different activities or different events that lead to Parikshit Maharaj's activities, and that actually talks about the pastimes, which talks about the living of Krishna's associates, ending their earthly pastimes. And so Vidura, as we know that he was chastised by he was just, what is the name of the Kaurav? Duryodhana. And then he went to pilgrimage. And now when the battle was over and he came, okay, now there is no Duryodhana, happily I can go and enjoy Madi. No, he came with a purpose. And what was the purpose that that he wanted? He wanted to liberate Dhritarashtra. So then Yudhishthira Maharaj welcomes Vidura, and there are wonderful glorification of Vidura. He says, devotees like you are the very holy places of personified, because you carry the Supreme Personality of Godhead in your heart, and wherever you go, that place becomes the place of pilgrimage. And you can understand that how great is Vidura, and that Vidura coming here back from returns from his pilgrimage with the purpose that he wanted to benefit Dhritarashtra. Now then he chastises Dhritarashtra. He says, please get out here immediately. What are you doing here? How the fear has overtaken you. Your father, your brother, your sons, they already died, and you are happily still living here and enjoying on others' food as if given by like a dog. Your body is now overtaken by old age, and you are living in the home of another's. That's not good. So there is no need to live a life, degraded life, which is actually on the charity of those whom you have tried to kill throughout your life. Is an insult. Is an insult to Dhritarashtra. But that insult is actually for a higher purpose. And in that, he wanted so that Dhritarashtra can at least learn and live this all and go for Vanaprastha. So Dhritarashtra now leaves after chastising by Vidura. He has no other choice. One fine day he leaves, and then Gandhari also leaves. And then moving to the next chapter, Arjun goes to Dwarka, and it has been almost 6 to 7 months. Arjun does not come back. Yudhishthira Maharaj is actually little suspicious what happened, and he also started experiencing some bad omen, and that is where Arjuna comes. Arjuna is dejected, and Yudhishthira Maharaj is asking, why are you dejected? Because they don't want to hear. I mean, he does not want to directly explain that Lord Krishna has left this planet. And he starts actually, then Yudhishthira Maharaj asks so many wonderful questions, dharmic questions, that did you cheat someone? Are you defeated by someone? Did you not protect women? Or did you give some kind of troubles to the old people or child or to the woman? So many questions, and Arjuna did not speak. Then Arjuna actually, what happened to the Edo dynasties? But he did not ask about particularly Krishna. Then in that, Arjuna starts speaking. He says, and of course he gives a hint that Lord Krishna has left, and he says that in his absence, it is very important, this 1.15.22 shloka, Prabhupada's purport is so brilliant. Prabhupada says that, Arjuna says that in Krishna's absence, I was actually defeated by the simple cowherd men while I was guarding the queens. And the same Arjun he said that I am the same Arjun. I have the same Gandiva arrows. I have the same arrows, same chariots, same horses, but all of them have become null and void because, and there is only one reason, the difference between the earlier scenario and this scenario, that in earlier scenario, Lord Krishna's presence was there, and in the second scenario, he was without Krishna. And you can see here that Prabhupada writes that no one should be puffed up. That's important lessons for all of us, that no one should be puffed up for his powers borrowed from Lord Sri Krishna. The same man should rather feel obliged to the Lord for such a benefaction and must utilize all our power, all our skills, all our competencies in the service of Lord Krishna, because such a power can be withdrawn at any time by the Lord. It happened to the devotee like Arjuna. What to talk about us? So the best use of such power, Srila Prabhupada was brilliant. 1.15.22, I guess. Brilliant purport that the best use of such a powers or skills and the appliances is to engage them in the service of Lord Sri Krishna. So then they understand that their dear Lord has left, and then Yudhishthira Maharaj retires, followed by other Pandavas, and then before leaving, he enthroned his grandson Parikshit Maharaj as a heir apparent of this earthly planet Bharatvarsha, and that is how he continues, and that is where lead to the next portion where Sutta Goswami discusses about Parikshit Maharaj's activities. So the conclusion from this slide is that the power of association of a sadhu. Dhritarashtra, firmly convinced by the introspective knowledge given by Vidura, it broke all his strong familial connections, the family connections, and he set out on the path for liberation. And that happened only when there is association of a saintly person like Vidura. So for all of us, it is so important that we should always aspire for this association of saintly personalities, sadhus, because sadhus carries Krishna in their heart. As we can see from last few days, couple of days or 3-4 days, we are so fortunate by association of Srila Prabhupada's direct disciple. And we can see that how she carries Krishna, how she carries Srila Prabhupada in her. And by just being with them, just being around them, actually we can feel that vibration, we can feel that positiveness that she's carrying Krishna, the power of association, sadhu sangha. And Arjuna, when Arjuna lamentation, so the another learning point here was that, or the summary of this, so Arjuna lamenting, he was recalling what he has done with Krishna, how he could actually defeated so many things, he could defeated all the Kauravas, killed them and all those things, all, and how he actually talked to him, how he joked him, so many things. Now Arjuna is actually lamenting, he's lamenting Krishna's departure, not because that he's missing something, but because missing something, that the power or the competencies or the skill, but because he's lamenting due to his ecstatic love for Krishna. And so that is where the wonderful reciprocation between Lord and his devotees. Then the next chapter talks about, next 2-3 chapter talks about Parikshit Maharaj and Kali Avatar, Kali Purusha, not the Kali Avatar, Kali. Parikshit Maharaj, one day, so he was going for forest and he saw this Kali being beating the bull and the cows. The bull was nothing but the dharma, and the earth, the cow was in the form, the earth in the form of cow. And he picked up his bow and arrow, and he saw that how, because Parikshit Maharaj has shown by his own example how to rule the earth, and is such a righteous person, and something that such a person who is appeared like a king, but doing the activity, even person like a Shudra, killing and beating the cow and bull. And that is where Parikshit Maharaj, person of such a caliber, cannot tolerate. Immediately, Parikshit Maharaj took his bow and start about to kill or about to hit this Kali. So he asked, "Who are you? You appear to be very strong, and yet you dare kill in my protection, in my kingdom, those who are helpless. By your dress, you appear to pose yourself like a godly man, like a king, but your activities are opposing the principles of a Kshatriya." So, and then after understanding Parikshit Maharaj that there is something injustice happening to bull and cow, then he goes to bull and cow to console them, and then he questions both bull and cow that who caused this suffering, especially bull. And then bull says that I'm confused. Some says it's because of karma, some says it's because of Parabrahman, some says it's beyond somebody beyond the material thing, some say it is unknowable. I don't know, but it could be, though I cannot ascertain certainly the cause of my suffering, but it must be a Supreme Lord. Because it is without his sanction, nothing can happen. So here, Parikshit Maharaj understood that this person must be a dharma, because who is giving such a wonderful wonderful understanding of that reasons that different people use the different reasons of suffering the perpetrator, that Parikshit Maharaj is actually getting from bull, that is nothing but dharma. So here Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, so important that the protection of the cows and the Brahminical culture, because that Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hitaya Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namano. If we protect cows and Brahmanas, that will actually please Lord Krishna, because the bull and the cows are the symbols of the most offenseless living creatures, because they don't give any, they don't hurt anyone, they don't harass anyone. So such a peaceful entities are that, and not only that, they are always beneficial to the living entities. Even their stool and urine are also utilized for the benefit of the human society. So we can understand that the protection of the cows are important aspect of the Vedic culture. So Maharaj Parikshit, who could fight with 1,000 enemies single-handedly, he pacified the personification of religion, dharma, that is in the form of bull, and then also earth. He took off his sharp sword and about to kill the personality of Kali, and who is the cause of all irreligion. Now, as soon as he is ready to kill Kali Purusha, and at that time, because he understands that if Kali is allowed, all the religious principle will be flourished in his kingdom, and that is the last thing that he wanted. So Kali immediately, very smartly, he surrendered to Parikshit Maharaj. And as soon as he surrendered, he said, now I am soul surrender unto you, like Arjuna surrendering to Krishna. So similarly, he said that now I am your surrendering to you, please protect me. Because in Vedic culture, it is said that if you surrender someone, he should protect you. So now here, Parikshit Maharaj have no choice but to protect him or to leave him or to save him from his, taking his life. So then he said, I will protect you, but you cannot live in my kingdom. Then Kali Purusha said that, where can I go? Because there is no place other than your kingdom here. Everything is but your kingdom. Then he said, okay, you must give me a place. So the first, there are many things that Parikshit Maharaj, not to give Kali Purusha any chance to stay within his kingdom. The first thing he said that to get out of this, he said, where can I go? Everywhere is your kingdom, because he was the emperor of the whole earth. So we cannot actually get any place where there is no king or kingdom which is ruled by Parikshit Maharaj. So then he has no choice. He said, okay, then you can stay in my kingdom, but then you cannot live everywhere. Then he said, you have to give me a place. And that is where Parikshit Maharaj gives him a place that you can stay with Dyuta, Pana, Sriya, and Suna. That means to reside the places where Dyuta is a gambling, Pana is a drinking, Sriya is prostitution, and Suna is like animal slaughter were performed. So these are the 4 places where Kali Purusha is allowed to stay in the kingdom of Parikshit Maharaj. And Kali Purusha is not satisfied. He has something more. Please give me more. Dil mange more. He said, give me more, something more. And because of his begging, then Parikshit Maharaj gave him one more place where he said that he is allowed to stay. And what is the 5th place that Parikshit Maharaj allowed? Parikshit Maharaj allowed King Kali Purusha to stay. What is the 5th place?
Where gold is stacked for sense enjoyment.
Perfect. He gave permission to live where there is a gold, because wherever there is a gold, Sutta Goswami says there are 4 things happens: falsity, intoxication, lust, envy, and enmity. So that is the reason that all these 4 things in addition to the gold was allowed for Kali Purusha to stay there. So of course, devotees, we may have gold, but if we use that gold in the service of Krishna, that is fine. But the purpose, the intention here is that anything which is outside of Krishna's service or Krishna's service is actually not recommended, because that is where Kali Purusha will stay. So like this, even though Kali Purusha was allowed to stay all those things, but King Parikshit Maharaj was such a righteous king that there was no opportunity, no place to opportunity for the Kali Purusha to flourish. However, at the time for the Kali Yuga to propagate, to flourish, Krishna has his own plan, and that's what happened. So we know the story that how Parikshit Maharaj went for hunting, and then he saw that Samyak Rishi, he did not welcome him. Then he put there's a snake around his neck, and when his son came, Shringi, then he cursed him, and then Parikshit Maharaj started. He was fatigued by hunger and thirst, and thinking that he did not respect, but we understand from the Srila Prabhupada's purport that the devotee of the Lord, or because when he was hearing Srimad Bhagavatam going forward in the second canto, he said that I'm not thirsty and hungry for 3-4 days that he was hearing, but here he got thirsty and hungry because there is some particular plan from Lord Sri Krishna that where the Srimad Bhagavatam would be spoken by Sukadeva Goswami along with the Parikshit Maharaj. So this is the whole purpose of that incidents where Parikshit Maharaj is actually putting that dead snake around the neck of Samyak Rishi. So we understand there is a higher divine purpose, because if Parikshit Maharaj is of such a caliber, such a character person, then when he was cursed by the Shringi, by this Samyak Rishi's son, he would have actually counteracted by another curse. But in fact, he voluntarily, immediately, in fact, he was thinking that I should get all reaction for two reasons. One thing is that by getting reaction, that he would getting curse or reaction, that he would actually not get, he would not be intent to do anything in the future. And second thing, that it will purify him from the sins what he has committed. So that is where Parikshit Maharaj get cursed, that he would be die in 7 days. And then finally he leaves everything. He has a 7 days notice, and then he goes on the bank of Ganges, and as the divine arrangement happens to be there, all the sages appear there, and then he asks questions to the sages. That what are the questions that were asked by Sukadeva Parikshit Maharaj to the sages? He has two specific questions. Hare Krishna, am I there in the
Yes,
meeting?
Prabhuji. We
Okay.
can hear you.
Okay. So he asked a very specific question. Please tell me the duty of everyone in all circumstances, and specifically person who is about to die. And as he, I mean, that all these formalities happen, he offers humble obeisances to the sages, and the sages sat there. Sukadev Parikshit Maharaj asked these questions, and exactly that moment, again by the divine arrangement, appears there. Who appears there?
Sukadeva.
Sukadeva Goswami. And then he says, by the divine arrangement, then he asks question, please let me know what man should hear, chant, and remember and worship, and also what he should not do. And in addition to the previous question, please tell me the specific duty of the person who is about to die. And that is where the first canto Srimad Bhagavatam concludes by the meetings of Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. So now, if you see, the first full canto is the outer discussion between the sages of Naimisharanya headed by Saunak Rishi and Sutta Goswami. And now in between, now the inner loop would start the discussion between Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj in the second canto. And in between, there will be third inner loop where there will be discussion between Narad, Brahmadev and Narad. Then there will be discussion between Lord Krishna and Brahmadev. So that would happen in the second canto. So that is how we actually come to the canto number 2. And if we just take the time, we are at 5:15 or 17 rather.
Prabhuji, I was thinking maybe we can open the floor for question answers.
Yes, bro. I think that
Right.
would be good.
Yeah, and then see. Yeah. So,
Prabhuji, I have one question.
okay.
So the reason for appearing Sri Krishna in the womb of Devaki is to reclaim the souls in mode of goodness and deliver the souls in mode of goodness and perform pastime with devotees, right?
Yes,
So,
bro.
what about the other souls who are in mode of good? And I think it is in mode of pure goodness. But what about what is the purpose of Krishna's appearance for the other souls who are in mode of passion and ignorance and goodness?
So for the people, because Krishna says that Mamai Amse Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, all the living entities are part and parcel of Lord Sri Krishna. So that means he should make arrangement for everybody. But when everybody, so now, for example, there is a prerequisite. If we have to go to the spiritual world, he cannot take everybody and everyone. So then we must purify ourselves. So this whole Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita is for all of us, people like all of us, that we can see Srila Prabhupada mentioned that just by following this 4 regulative principle and chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one actually become eligible to go back to Godhead. Isn't that amazing, profound statement from our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada? Because by following Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, and we have so many examples, people transform their heart. Even if we are akama, sarva kama, moksha kama, even if we have all desire, no desire, desire for liberation, worship Krishna. So this is where Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, and that is why, in fact, it becomes utmost important for all of us, Bharatvarsha, that we have born here, that we ourselves should follow that. And not only that, we must give this knowledge to others so that others will get this opportunity to hear Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. And as soon as somebody comes in contact with Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, rest is assured that definitely it will help them to transform from whatever the gunas that one is, and of course, by the degree that one surrender. So it is not that the others will not be taken, but others have to go through the process of purification, and that process of purification will happen by bhakti itself. They don't have to do something else to get the bhakti, because bhakti itself is a purifying process.
So
Does
it's
that
an
help?
yes, Prabhuji. So it is an opportunity for other souls to perform devotional service and purify.
Yeah,
Is that the right
absolutely.
way to understand?
Yeah,
Oh.
we can take our own example. What qualification we are? We in mode of goodness? Absolutely no. Are we in passion? Sometimes, most of the times, tamoguna. So how come we got this opportunity? By the mercy of devotees. So there is always an opportunity, and so devotees Lord's bhakta, because bhakti can come only from bhakta. It cannot come from Google, it cannot come from somebody else, it can come only from bhakta. So when bhakta goes and taking that, instead of staying in Vrindavan all the ways, go to at the age of 70 and doing all those things for all of us. So this opportunity is always there. So, and that is where Prabhupada's mission is, that we have to go forward. In fact, when we had the last session on Gita course, one person said that, why you people are going on the road and distributing these books? Sri Gaur in our 9th session, he said that I don't like your idea of going outside and giving this book, distributing books, because somebody should be inspired within. That is the typical thing, right? They should be inspired within, so that then he will come to you. I said, now you are today here in this our center. Had we not have this center, how would you have got this opportunity? He said, yeah, right. So because devotees give this opportunity, and because devotee gives opportunity, and not only devotee gives opportunity, along with that devotee gives Krishna, and definitely it will motivate or inspire within. So if there is no devotee making such arrangement, how we all will be discussing Bhagavatam today? So opportunities are there. Devotees makes it much easier and quicker for all of us, and we all are example of that. We are even no qualification. What qualification? In fact, in Kali Yuga, everybody is born as a Shudra, lower than a Shudra. So we are practicing Krishna. In fact, yesterday when we are reading, yesterday morning, the glories of the holy name, it is that if somebody started chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it is a very highest position, because that means that we must have done something in the past, and that something means by the mercy of devotees. So even if we are not eligible, but we are getting eligible because of devotees' mercy. So yes, to answer your question, yes, every opportunity is there for everyone.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. But thanks for your question, and so many interactive questions that you answered. Especially the 6 questions were right on the spot.
Sonu Prabhu is very intelligent and sincere, and
And that is where Sri Gaur Prabhu made him our finance minister during Janmashtami.
Yeah. Okay, so want to check if anyone else has any question from the first canto. Anything which you might have not understood when we went through this.
Oh, Anupam Krishna Prabhu is there. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Mataji is also there, Anupam Krishna Prabhu. And
Hare Krishna.
Premdata Prabhu.
Premdata Murari Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Dipesh Prabhu, Anuradha Mataji, Rajesh Prabhu, Nikita Mataji, Harshad Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Harshita Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so to summarize Canto 1, which is set scene for discussion between Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. Probably we'll see if we can do sometime, time permits, we'll summarize the canto to definitely it is some technical portion, and also it establishes the supreme method to achieve Supreme Lord.
So Yugal Kishore Prabhuji, we will seek your permission if we can cover it next time.
Sure, Prabhu. On 8th may not be possible,
Okay.
but 8th.
Just hold on.
Yeah.